Anyone who's traded derivatives in the last 2 years understands the need for improved project execution. The change in the derivatives market is monumental given the regulatory effects of Dodd-Frank and EMIR and Basel III. I'm here with Steven Halliwell from Capco to talk about how folks can improve project execution throughout their institution. Steve, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Steve, what are you seeing in today's market? How are banks today executing on project improvement, project execution?
Today, as people have grown up, business units have grown up with different amounts of funding, and when you go into a bank, you find that the change organisations are very siloed and are aligned to certain asset classes. So you would have a derivatives change group, a cash equity change group. And part of what you see is that those groups use very different methodologies, use very different standards.
Right.
And part of what we're trying to do with change sourcing is try and go in there and look at standardising and getting some standard tool sets in order to improve that execution quality.
Can you give me some examples on how institutions are siloed and what the impact of those silos have been on change and change sourcing?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at, again, how businesses have invested themselves, and you could have had a credit business that has invested highly and they've built new trading applications, they've done this and they've got a real STP process. And then you could look at an equity derivative business that hasn't invested yet and they've got real legacy processes. Then when you think about how we need to report to the data repositories now, a lot of that
the SDRs need
the SDRs
across the board reporting.
Yeah, so a lot of that information comes from execution.
Right.
And in order to capture the right information at the right time, you have to do it through execution. So having one asset class that's got all of the information that it needs and another asset class that doesn't impacts how we execute for SDR and how we manage that process. So trying to get other people up to speed so that we have all of the right information up front at trade capture so that we're much smoother when we come to implementing, it is critical.
Within the derivatives market, as I said, we've got Dodd-Frank, we've got EMIR, we've got Basel III, we've got prudential regulators. Everyone is looking at this marketplace, and the change and the pace of change is just incredible.
Yep.
New rules are coming down every month. There are deadlines coming. You know, what can folks do? What process should they look at to sort of bring all this down to one harmonized effort to affect change, but also to control cost and improve quality?
Yep. Well, I mean, again, I think the way that if you look at change organisations, a few years ago there was probably nothing around regulation and control. Now you see a large percentage of the change groups really focused on Dodd-Frank and focused on EMIR. And what we will bring into that is really, very highly skilled business analysts, highly skilled project managers that can help drive that execution, can help manage those projects, can help do the business analysis, and can really offer that value, partner with the SMEs in the organisation, and really manage those projects and deliver.
So if I am a head of a desk, or I am a CIO, and I recognize that, look, my teams need to be plussed up, I need more support. Yep. What is the process I should be looking for to bring in an outside partner to help with something like this? Is there a defined process that people should be using to make sure they get the best out of their change management?
I mean, first, reach out to us is a good opportunity. But then, when we would come in, we would look across the change organisations and look at how they're managing things today, look at where we see, where we've gone into other places and where we've got the experience to kind of understand where we can improve this, understand where there are gaps and where there are efficiencies that we can create. And in order to do that, you've really got to understand the portfolio, you've really got to understand how they're delivering today. I
mean, you've been doing this now with large institutions, and so what are some of the things that you've seen? Have you come across any surprises? What type of infrastructure exists now, and what type of infrastructure should they be moving forward to?
Well, I mean, I think as times have shifted and banks have really had to focus on what they would consider the run the bank businesses in order to kind of maintain today's business. So there's been a little bit of a shift away from investing in change, and what we can do there is we can come in at a good cost. We can come in and we can look to where they need to set their improvements. And the things that I've seen when we've gone in there is how different products, different asset classes have really grown up differently. And you have one group that is very, very siloed and very, very different to another group.
Right.
And how we can bring those two together, how we can look for standards, whether it's testing, whether it's UAT. A lot of those processes can be standardized. There are some specifics, but you can standardize some of the administration, and doing that helps improve efficiencies for the banks.
Yeah, I imagine there's very little cross-pollination when it comes to multi-asset class change. Equities does one thing, FX does another, Treasury would do one, derivatives would do another. Is it possible to assume an organization can implement that internally, that sort of high-level sort of change management, or is it really something that's only realistically done through an outside partnership?
I think generally budgets business specific.
Right.
So banks focus on that business, they get the budget and they go in, and so they build their own groups. They want to keep them contained so they can deliver their own business opportunities. Right. Whereas when you get somebody from the outside coming in who can take a step back, look holistically across it, and can partner, and it's all about being a partner, right, and really suggesting where there can be changes. And things aren't going to change dramatically, and things take time to change, and there will always be things that are specific to derivatives, things that are specific to cash equity,
right,
but looking for those that you can extract, I feel it's very difficult for banks to do that today themselves.
Well, Steve, I want to thank you very much for joining us today and talking about this sort of new dynamic in change management. I think that we're going to see more of this, especially as the pace of change continues over the next 2 years. I think that derivatives and the derivatives change are a topic here to stay. Stephen, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.